Hi, Damien Barrett on Access All Areas, brought to you by OPSM. With me, as always, on a Friday, four-time Premiership coach, player of the century, Lee Matthews. Lee, welcome.
Well, thank you, Damien. I was interested that you popped up the thought that Paul Roos might be thought to be the Kevin Sheedy replacement at the Giants.
Yeah, that's the plan they will now put in place, to have him replace Kevin Sheedy at the end of 2013, so to take it up between 2013 season into 2014. They want Sheedy to do one more year. They want a nice little arrangement there with Roos as being the main man as coach and a Spruker type setup with Sheedy as the, I suppose, the ambassador role.
I'm not sure about the second part. I mean, I think Paul Roos would be the ideal. You replace an icon with an icon, and he's so well known in Sydney, so that'd be fantastic.
Do you think he'll do it, Roos?
Well, I don't know whether I don't know where he's thinking in terms of his coaching, and I think the fact he's going to coach the other Sydney team when he's been so strong aligned with the Swans, I don't know where that would sit that well with him. But from the Giants' point of view, he would be ideal.
There's also, I suppose, a little bit of political intrigue about what happens to Mark Williams, who is contracted as an assistant coach next year and will most likely stay there. But he was of the belief, rightly or wrongly, that he was going to be the replacement for Sheedy when that time came. That right now is really unlikely.
Doesn't look like it, does it now?
It doesn't look like it now. No. Another coach in the news, Scott Waters, today has made the comment that in 3 years' time, St Kilda could be a juggernaut, or should be a juggernaut. It's good stuff in the Herald Sun, Mark Stevens' article. I like it. I like coaches putting them and themselves and their club out there in such a strong fashion.
Nice to be positive. Can't agree with the thinking. I look at St Kilda as a little bit like Geelong. I mean, their present is better than I think their future's going to be 3 or 4 years down the track. Of course, their gun players are still getting into that veteran category. I mean, I would think Richmond, Carlton, and probably Essendon. Are much more. They're around the middle of the ladder too. Are much more likely to be juggernauts in 3 or 4 years' time than St Kilda.
So that's a misguided assessment of where the Saints are at.
I mean, when John Worsfold said that about the Eagles a couple of years ago, we all scoffed and they went to the top. But I think that's a really optimistic view, that one.
Okay, I like it. I like coaches putting
be optimistic. I mean, he disagree with his thinking a little.
The top four. It seems set. Is it set?
I think so. I mean, the Eagles are fifth and they're percentage in a game behind, so they've got to make up 2 games on Hawthorn. But we look at the draw and we think we know there's probably an uneven draw, but to me, we know the bottom 5 have really been gimmies for the gimme wins.
Yep.
Adelaide Crows play the top 5 8 times. Collingwood only play them 5. All that means is the Crows have got a pretty good chance of finishing on top, but I agree with that conventional wisdom. That doesn't mean they've been the best before team. It means, because a win or 2 is going to be the difference between finishing potentially top or 5th. So I think the Crows are probably going to finish on top, but I think got a lot of work to prove that they're the best team.
And 8 games there, the Crows, against the bottom 5 teams to this point. If it was an 8, if it was, say, 4 or 5, would they still be on the ladder?
Well, it's more that they're unequal. That's more the point. I mean, there's a Collingwood a percentage behind them, and there's three times less that they played those gimme games. I mean, we can talk about the draw and good draws, hard draws, what have you, but that's just one little criteria that I think's noteworthy, and the Crows certainly coming out on tops in that area.
Jack Ziebell's been out for 4 weeks for North Melbourne from the suspension that he incurred when he hit Aaron Joseph. He said this during the week, and then we'll talk about it.
I don't think I'll change the way I play. I've been asked this a few times since it's happened, and I think that I've been brought up to be taught to attack the ball ferociously, and I think that that's one of my strengths in my game. So if I was to be put in that position again, I think not much would change, and if that leads to me getting in trouble down the track, then we'll sort it out when it comes. So yeah, but I don't think I'll change the way I play.
I saw that vision, Lee, and I still can't believe he got 4 weeks compared with what players don't even get cited for, even in time since. Having said that attitude that he's just displayed there by saying he won't change his ways, what do you make of that?
Don't like that. Obstinate. That's what I make of that. I mean, basically, the rules are saying even when you're going for the footy, you can't make high contact in your duty of care. And I just think that's an obstinate attitude. I mean, coachability is learning by what doesn't work for me. And the game says, Jack, you're not allowed to do that.
Yep.
The match review panel said it, the tribunal said it. I think Jack has to say, well, he's still got to attack the ball, but if I actually make high contact with an opponent, I'm on dangerous territory. So a bit obstinate that, I thought.
His coach, Brad Scott's been very outspoken about it too. If it wasn't Brad Scott and you were coaching Jack Ziebell, what would you be saying to him on the back of what he has said there?
I'm saying, Jack, learn from what the rules tell you. and every other player the same, because really players, I mean, we have the DVD videos and all that kind of stuff, but every time a player gets reported and goes before the tribunal, gets found guilty, every other player should say, OK, I'll take note that I'm going to be careful of not repeating that incident.
Okay. Ahmed Saad, Lee, I want to take you through what happened last week when he had a set shot for goal here at the MCG.
Yeah, we go for a sleep while he's
let's have a look.
While he's setting up, Dave.
The point of the mark being taken, we've started this clock, and it's going to fast forward through various stages. But the bottom line is, this man is taking a long time to have a set shot at goal. The rules state you've got 30 seconds. Now, as we see, at the 30-second mark, he walks in, but another 16 seconds elapse before he does this and kicks the goal. 46 seconds have gone.
What's amazing is, of course, the final 15 or 16 seconds are a really slow walk-in, which it just keeps going and it keeps going. But yeah, I think the umpires will be telling him just to hurry up a little bit.
Yep.
But what I find interesting, not many people can walk in that slow and get pretty good momentum through their kick. So it works pretty well for him.
On pure technicality, he gets away with that. But you're right, they cannot let that happen. And I'd be staggered if they haven't had a chat to him
Try and
already.
Get it going quicker.
We talked about Brad Scott a moment ago. Chris Scott, actually, sorry, before we do, let's have a look at what you can do inside the time Ahmed Saad there took to kick that goal. The men's 4x100 metres relay in London last week took 37 seconds.
So a lot can happen there. They can get around a lap of the Olympic track.
Even down to the 100 metres freestyle, you can do that in the same time as
no, it is. I mean, it is noteworthy, and I think we're all of a sudden, he doesn't have that many set shots. It's not as if he's Matthew Lloyd, who's having 100 set shots a year, so he only has a handful.
Chris Scott last week had some pretty strong words to say about the adjudication and interpretations on the deliberate out of bounds in that Friday night game he played, or his team played against West Coast. And look, everyone's had a say on it. I think at least 7 out of the 9 decisions which were in question were probably the right decision. I ask you, though, why were 9 decisions paid in this game when the average throughout the year was about 0.6 per game?
Because there was 9 possible deliberate out of bounds.
I put it to you they've decided to police them.
No,
They should
I disagree with that. Well, what happened the rest of the weekend? The rest of the weekend was the same as it's been in recent months, but we had this game where there was a lot of incidents that happened. I reckon, and the players were risking the umpire's decision going against them by continuing to do it. The umpires were harsh, I thought, but once they were harsh once or twice, they thought they have to be consistent and be harsh for the rest of the game. But again, how many times is there contentious deliberate out of bounds decisions? In this game, there happened to be a lot. And what was born over the weekend, well, unless the other umpires weren't at the same meeting, this was just something that happened with it. Same as Buddy Franklin kicked 13 goals. Dane Swan got 50 possessions once without being best on ground. Things happen. That's the uniqueness of our game, and that's what we love about it, the unpredictability. Stop
being so rational. I reckon there's something going on. Hey, Buddy Franklin is back this week, Lee. He's missed 5 with a hamstring injury.
Yeah.
This is what the Hawthorn forwards have done in his absence, and we've raised this because there's been someone to kick at least 4 goals in the 5 matches that he's missed. Have a look at this. Gunston a couple of times appears there. Hodgins, Suckling and Bruce and Lewis and last week Popolo and Hale all covered for him by way of 4 goals or more. Where's he fit in, and is there a strange part of this return that may work against Hawthorn?
I think not. No, I think one of the things about Buddy Franklin, he's not a structured player. He doesn't have to play full forward. He more plays as a half forward. Sometimes he can go and play deep and play around the full forward position. Sometimes he can get up to the middle of the ground. That's the great thing about him. He doesn't affect their structure. You've got Roughhead deep and Gunston deep probably, and Buddy can go all over the place. So no, I think any thought against a really good opposition that they are going to be better without Franklin is just ridiculous.
Will we see those same players kick 4 goals from here on in for the rest of this year, with Buddy in the team?
Well, the downside, of course, is that when Buddy is in the target area, he makes himself a target and the ball gets kicked to him. So I guess that's the downside of it all, the predictability. But he can play anywhere forward half, midfield forward half. So he's not a structure player, I don't think.
Yep. Lee, it's now time for a reminder of the OPSM Fan Face-Off competition.
OPSM is giving you and a friend the chance to win the ultimate 2012 Toyota AFL Grand Final experience with the OPSM Fan Face-Off. Download the OPSM app and share your fan face to win.
And for this week's OPSM Fan Face-Off winner, simply go to opsm.com.au/fanfaceoff. Look under the previous winners tab. Lee, Kurt Tippett looking more and more likely by the day that he will be returning to his southeast Queensland roots, be that Brisbane Lions or Gold Coast Suns. Do you like it?
Well, I mean, as being involved with the Lions for a decade and the go-home factor working against you for a decade, Shane O'Brien, Des Hedlund, all the others that are being recruited, it's great to see. But I still think he'll stay at Adelaide. Because I think players think about shifting and they'll entertain it, but when the crunch comes, I suspect the fact he's playing at a team that is actually a good team, right up the top of the ladder, OK, I'd like to go home and live in my home base, but I still suspect the incumbent has always got the first opportunity to keep him, I reckon.
You're well tapped in, obviously, everywhere in footy, but particularly that southeast Queensland corner.
Yeah.
What are they saying about what's required to get him out of Adelaide? I mean, the money's one thing, but to actually get him by way of a draft exchange.
Well, there was some scuttlebutt a couple of years ago when he re-signed, that he re-signed on the basis he could leave after this current contract period for a second-round choice of wherever he chooses to go.
Is that all?
So on that basis, if he just chose to go to, well, the Gold Coast Suns, it'd be about pick 35 or something, and the line's not that much better. So
and you're saying that's potentially written into his current contract?
That's what I'm told. That seems to be the belief up north, that if he decides to come home, we devote our second-round draft choice. That's the cost to the Crows.
Yep. Hey, I like this part of the show. Your time to reveal who your team with the swagger is right
Well, this one was a morning one, because I picked up the paper this morning and I saw the Essendon team. And the ins, Ryder, Stanton, Zaharakis, Hooker. This is the best Essendon team that's been fielded for probably a couple of months.
This is a swagger on potential, because what they've done in the past month...
It's on paper. No, but they haven't had this team together for 2 months. They look good on paper.
Stagger?
The stagger for me was probably West Coast, on the basis, even though they won last week, the Collingwood beating Sydney meant that I think they're not going to finish top 4, and it means they get the home final maybe the first week and then they have to travel. Don't think they can do it from outside the top 4 of the Eagles.
Sure. Time for the result of our very topical OPSM poll from this week, where Luke Darcy posed the question, are West Australian fans the most poorly behaved in the country? I'm not sure what Luke's got against WA people, Lee, but in the end, the viewers said no, they're not, by way of 64% against the 36% who said they were. You got a view on this?
Well, they were passionate last Friday night, I can tell you. Oh, well, now, how do you have a view? I think by weight of numbers, you always think Collingwood, but tell you what, when I was coaching against Port Adelaide and Adelaide, they were pretty feral on the way from the coach's box to the boundary line.
I'm still scared by Richmond supporters, Lee. Seriously scared by them. Hey, thanks again. Good
thanks, Damo.
Edition of Access All Areas. I'll see you next Friday. And Luke Darcy will be back with me on Monday for another edition of Access All Areas. Enjoy the footy on the weekend. Thanks for joining us. See you later.